Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world.
The light no darkness can overcome.
Stay with us now, for it is evening,
and the day is almost over.
Let your light scatter the darkness,
and shine within your people here.
Joyous light of heavenly glory, loving glow of God's own face, you who sing creation's story, shine on every land and race. Now as evening falls around us, we shall raise our songs to you. God of daybreak, God of shadows, come and light our hearts anew.
In the stars that grace the darkness, in the blazing sun of dawn, in the light of peace and wisdom, we can hear your quiet song. Love that fills the night with wonder, love that warms the weary soul, love that bursts all chains asunder, set us free and make us whole.
You who made the heavens splendor, every dancing star of night, make us shine with gentle justice, let us each reflect your light. Mighty God of all creation, gentle Christ who lights our way, loving Spirit of salvation, love to on to endless day.
May God be with you all.
And also with you.
Let us sing our thanks to God.
It is right to give God thanks and praise.
Blessed are you, Creator of the universe. From old you have led your people by night and day. May the light of your Christ make our darkness bright. For your word and your presence are the light of our pathways, and you are the light and life of all creation. prayers come before you, O God, as incense, and may your presence surround and fill us, so that in union with all creation, we might sing your praise and your love in our lives. Amen.
Welcome to our third Advent service, and tonight's reading comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 25. Jesus said, "Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout, 'Look, here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him.' Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamp. The foolish said to the wise, 'Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out.' But the wise replied, 'No, there will not be enough for you and for us. You'd better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves.' And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came. And those who were ready went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids came also, saying, 'Lord, Lord, open to us.' But he replied, 'Truly, I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour.'" This is a lesson that has meant a lot to Don Moriarty, who is our interview on waiting for tonight. You, of course, many of you know Don. He and his wife Janine and their children Morgan and Dylan are active members of this congregation. Don is a therapist and clinical supervisor for many years, and he has some wonderfully wise words to share with us about waiting in these times and having hope.
Hello, I am talking with Don Moriarty today. Are you in Hawaii, Don?
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah, he wishes.
Yeah, this is just one little thing that I'm trying to do to help stave off, the COVID malaise.
I know it. We gotta mix things up in these days. So
Yeah.
anyway, well, we are, as you know, talking about waiting in these times of Advent, and I have known Don, of course, a long time and knew he would be an insightful man. So I'm just gonna start out with the first question, and that is, tell me about a time you've had to wait in your life, Don.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to tell you about a time that also includes Advent from when I was a kid. But I'd also just like to note that waiting is just a natural part of life. No matter how old you are, no matter what stage of development you're in, and it's just part of it. We all experience it. We experience it with our kids, saying things like, "Are we there yet? How much longer is it?" Things that we said ourselves to our parents and families. But it's just a natural part. But when I looked at the questions and about a time where I had to wait, I thought about a time when I was, I'm not sure even if I was it was in the fall of when I was in the 4th grade or 5th grade. To tell you the truth, I'm not real clear right now on that. But I came down with pneumonia, and so I was at home, not allowed to go to school, didn't have a lot of energy anyway, and everybody else was off to school, and my parents were, at work. My mom, though, the school that she taught in was not far from our house, and she would come look in on me some, and then after school, my siblings were around. But I spent a lot of time alone. And unfortunately, the pneumonia got worse and I had to be hospitalized for quite a few weeks. And that included being over Thanksgiving. And that was kind of tough, although my dad came and for part of that day. And um, so it was a time of both waiting and isolation, kind of like now in many ways.
Yeah.
And eventually I did get better. I didn't know how bad it was, but they didn't tell me that till later. But eventually I was allowed to go home, but no one was allowed to be next to me, around me. And at that time I shared a room with my younger brother, and they said I couldn't do that. So actually I ended up sleeping on the couch in the living room. Um, but no, people could stand across the room and talk to me, but I couldn't play with anybody, do anything. Um, but the Christmas tree, was up, and all the Christmas lights and all the ornaments and decorations, for Advent time, Christmas time. And so even though in some ways it was a lonely time, I also had that around me, and to kind of comfort me and fall asleep, in the room where all that was there. Um, um, and I think a lot of times, though, this personal story, is just one that I remember. And
Yeah.
but I think a lot of our times of waiting is like that, waiting to be healed, to get well, waiting for something good that we're anticipating, or even sometimes things like waiting for a loved one to die when they're terminally ill.
Yeah.
It all, that frame of reference that we have, the context that we have, is just really, really important.
Yeah. I like that story is so applicable for today. I mean, you were basically in quarantine and couldn't be close to people you wanted to, and had to kind of wait through that. And I love the symbols of faith that were there. So the next question is, what helps or has helped you when waiting's been difficult in your life?
Well, part of what's helped is, over time, learning that, we can't control everything. And I know, I think I'd like to kind of blend in the next question, which, is feeling inadequate,
Yeah.
and helpless. Well, our society particularly really really reinforces the idea and ideal of rugged individualism and direct control. And unfortunately, over and over again in our lives, that comes up against reality, which in reality, we don't have direct control over much.
Yeah.
We can control ourselves. We can learn to control our thoughts, manage our emotions, and our behaviors and our relationships. But we can't control other people and other circumstances outside of us. And if we only focus on direct control, then frequently in our lives, then we're going to be feeling out of control or very helpless.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to have to learn over time, and but appreciate. And certainly I have appreciated over time, learning, that direct control is not the only kind of control there is. There's also a quiet and passive control. And talking with kids sometimes, they have a tough time with this. Ask them to make a fist, with one of their hands, and say, you did that. That's direct control. And now I'd like for you to relax your hand. Now, how did you do that? How did you do that? Because that's not direct control. That's an example of indirect control, and learning ways to have influence both over our bodies, our minds, and even in quiet ways of learning to influence circumstances and other people.
Yeah.
But if you don't accept that you don't have control, you don't get there,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that learning to know that we're not in control of everything and that's okay actually makes us more able to trust, which is, the next question to ask about is how would you define trust, or what does trust mean to you?
well, trust means to me, one moment, I'm just kind of got a dry mouth here. Trust means to me to rely, sometimes it's on parts of ourselves. Sometimes I can rely and trust on a particular part of myself that I, believe is a strength. But most often, when we're thinking about trust, we're talking about the learned ability to rely on others
Mhm.
or to rely on God.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to learn as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have situations in our lives, from infancy and through childhood that lead us to experiencing that and experiencing that it's okay to rely on others.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a mistake that so many of the stories in particularly in the Old Testament and the New Testament are about children,
Yeah.
And images of guiding and nurturing parents, or caregivers, shepherds.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think that that's an accident at all.
No.
It's a
No.
fundamental thing, and without those experiences, it becomes very difficult to let down your guard and rely on others.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like, sometimes when I think of that, how you said, the control of, clenching.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think trust is like opening up and saying, I trust God, you'll give me what I need.
Yes.
I'm ready to receive it. And I like that, how you've shown that to kids, kind of it's okay, like,
Mm.
Quit clenching up and, just let it go. That's good. That's good. So, what would you say waiting has taught you, in your faith, or things like that? I mean, have we answered that yet, or?
Well, part of that, like I've mentioned, is learning to rely on others.
Yeah.
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 And that appreciation. Part of it is also, learning to rely on God, and not necessarily just in an abstract way, but using symbols and understandings, that leads to trust.
Yeah. It's like prayer, right? I mean,
Like prayer, right?
Yeah.
And some of the Bible stories that I mentioned to you before we
Yeah.
started videoing, that are from Matthew 25 are ones that frequently come to me to remind me that I may need to settle down if I'm too excited or if I'm anxious and apprehensive,
Yeah.
that I need to settle down. And whether it's the story about the bridesmaids, attendees, and they're out there waiting. They've been tasked with out there waiting for the wedding party, and lots of things happen with them. And part of that is falling asleep and missing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the other story that also just comes to me frequently is that the Lord, comes like a thief in the night, and steals in, and I believe it said maybe steal into your home, but really, God, the Lord and Christ comes to us in unexpected ways and steals into our lives and into our hearts. And at the same time, though, we need to be awake to that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if we're in constant states of anxiety, apprehension, or interminable grief, then we're going to be missing a lot of that, missing a lot of those times where he breaks into our lives. And hopefully we don't want to miss those opportunities. So learning to be grounded and trust and be able to quiet ourselves is really important.
Yeah.
There's a song, I'm not going to sing it. I had some surgery a few weeks ago, and my voice is kind of croaky still. But there's a song that just really has helped me over time. It's called "Be Still, My Soul," and we sing it to the melody of Finlandia by Sibelius. Just beautiful. I'm just going to read the first verse. Be still, my soul. The Lord is on your side. Bear patiently the cross of grief or pain. Leave to your God to order and provide. In every change, he faithful will remain. Be still, my soul. Your best, your heavenly friend, through thorny ways leads to a joyful end.
I love that. And I like how you heard those words of Jesus coming like a thief in the night as words of promise, because that he will come. He will come, and even though it might seem like it's taking forever, we will not be lost in this anxious waiting times forever. It's good gospel. Beautiful.
Absolutely.
So anything else, Dawn, like about that you were wanting to share about waiting that we might have?
Well, I do just want to encourage everyone. It's not news that we're in really unusual circumstances. A worldwide pandemic and flare-ups of infections and people dying and in huge numbers, and the difficulty that trying to deal with it brings on individuals and families and communities. When I just like to point out when it first, kind of broke into our consciousness and schools shut down and everything, last spring, everyone was forced to learn how to deal with it. The thing is when something happens to us like this, or even on a smaller scale, we go to our short-term coping mechanisms, whatever they are. The thing is if you have a circumstance, particularly an adverse circumstance that's ongoing, that doesn't work. What happens is eventually that your short-term coping doesn't work anymore, and
Right.
sometimes can turn against you and bring more distress and discomfort and disability. So I would just like everyone to remember it's so important to step back from time to time and reassess what's going on. What kind of routines do you have going in your life? Or are you providing for your children? What kind of contacts are you having and reaching out, maybe on a daily basis or weekly basis? It is so important because from time to time through this, we're going to have to reorganize our coping. And that means reconnecting, with our faith, with our friends and families, and literally reorganizing what we're doing so we have a routine to hold on to that will get us through.
Yeah.
One of the things I love is Janine she's got lots and lots of friends, and a lot of them are all over the place. She has a friend that moved from Kitsap, from up here in Paulsbo, last fall. And one of the things they've been doing is they have a scheduled time. It's always at least once a week. Sometimes they'll schedule a different one where they will run or walk while they're talking with each other.
Mm.
And it's just scheduled, and if one of them wants to walk while the others are running, they do that. But her friend is down in northern Mississippi, and so they just figure out when, and it's just part of her schedule,
Great.
And I know what's going on when Janine says, I'm going to go out and talk with Sandra. She's going for a run or a walk.
Yeah.
Those things, I think, I love that, and I would hope that people try to organize their lives in some ways, because that organization and routine can be a longer term coping mechanism. So
That's a great place to end it. I think that it's our relationships with each other and our faith that are going to get us through the long haul times of waiting. So I appreciate you saying that. Well, thank you, Don. I really appreciate you taking the time for this and blessing us with your thoughts. So,
well, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
The light shines in the darkness,
and the darkness has not overcome it.
An angel went from God to a town called Nazareth, to a woman whose name was Mary. The angel said to her, "Rejoice, O highly favored, for God is with you. You shall bear a child, and his name shall be Jesus, the chosen one of God Most High." And Mary said, "I am a servant of my God. I live to do your will." My soul proclaims your greatness, O God, and my spirit rejoices in you. You have looked with love on your servant here, and blessed me all my life through. Great and mighty are you, O Holy One. Strong is your kindness evermore. How you favor the weak and lowly one, humbling the proud of heart.
You have cast the mighty down from their thrones and uplifted the humble of heart. You have filled the hungry with wondrous things and left the wealthy no want. Great and mighty are you, O faithful one. Strong is your justice, strong your love. As you promised to Sarah and Abraham, kindness forevermore. My soul proclaims your greatness, O God, and my spirit rejoices in you. You have looked with love on your servant here, and blessed me all my life through. worship and praise you.
God in mercy, hold us in love. For all of your servants who live out your gospel. God in mercy, hold us in love.
For all those who govern, that justice might guide them.
God of mercy, hold us in love. For all those who labor in service to others. God in mercy, hold us in love.
Grant weather that nourishes all of creation.
God of mercy, hold us in love. Keep watch on our loved ones and keep us from danger. God of mercy, hold us in love.
For all the beloved who rest in your mercy.
God of mercy, hold us in love. Help us, comfort us all of our days. Keep us, O God's gracious God.
Great and merciful God, source